judging by the names, I may have spoken to some of you via email already, but we'll probably talk about that when we get to the Q&A part of the session. So I'm Shaun Phillips, and I'm the Program Director for the MSc in Strength Conditioning. So for the first part of the session, I'm just going to talk you through some of the key features of the program, just give some further insight that might be useful for you. Once I've done that, we will have a Q&A session where you can ask any questions that you might have, and hopefully you'll get some more information that will help you further your application or make a decision about your application for the program. So if you could maybe keep any questions that you do have until the Q&A part. Okay, you can obviously make a note of them, but we'll deal with all the questions at the end if that's okay. So I think there are 3 or 4 of you now, so we shouldn't have too much of an issue dealing with the questions, okay? But make sure you do ask anything that you want to ask. It's really important that you get the information that you want to get from this session. So let's begin. Hopefully you can see the slides, and hopefully you can hear me and see me. If you can't hear me, then just type in the chat box to let me know that you're having an issue hearing me, and we can try and deal with it, okay? So let's begin, starting with the obvious place, I suppose, which is looking at the formal aims of the strength conditioning program. And you can see them on the screen here. So there are 4 overarching aims of the program. The program is what we call an evidence-based program. So throughout, you will be trained and you'll be encouraged to look at the existing research in strength conditioning. So evaluating and understanding that research and the latest thinking, as well as the classical thinking, and how that then applies to your practice. And also using that information, using that evidence and that research and that thinking to inform how you design and then how you subsequently deliver strength conditioning interventions and training interventions across a variety of different contexts. It's a program that combines theory and practice. Okay, and I'll touch on that in a few minutes' time. So you'll develop a strong theoretical foundation in a number of different key areas of strength conditioning, but you'll also have the opportunity to apply that in practice and to understand some of the difficulties sometimes in taking the theory as we understand it and then actually applying it into the real world. And essentially, all of that together is going to give you the opportunity to develop the skills that you need to become a practitioner, primarily in a sports performance environment, but not exclusively. The application of strength conditioning principles is becoming more broad in terms of the context that they're applied to. There are, individuals working in a strength conditioning perspective in clinical environments, with young people, with older individuals, in healthcare settings. So the program does discuss those applications as well, but it is primarily from a sports performance perspective. Okay, so in terms of the actual structure of the program, you can see it broken down here. So we have a number of core taught courses that you will take, and you can see them listed there. So a range of different topics regarding research concepts, as well as developing research projects, looking at your professional development, focusing on physiological aspects of strength conditioning, looking at the application to the pediatric population, environmental considerations when we're working with athletes and other individuals. So a variety of different applications that you'll cover in your taught component. You've also got up to 20 credits of option courses that you can select from across the university, as long as they have some relevance to the strength conditioning program. And you would discuss your option courses with myself and the relevant course organizer prior to confirming your selections. But you do have some option there. So the taught component represents the postgraduate diploma of the program. So that's 120 credits of taught content. If you want to do the MSc, you would then go on and do your dissertation over the summer period. So that's a piece of independent research that you would carry out with a supervisor as a member of the faculty here in the Institute. in a topic and in an area that was of interest to yourself and obviously of relevance to the program. And successful completion of both the talk component of the program as well as the dissertation for a total of 180 credits would make you eligible to receive the MSc. So that's the fundamental sort of overarching structure to the program. We'll have a look in a moment as well at how that actually works in terms of a timetable, give you an example of how the days will be structured over the course of an academic year. But before we have a look at the actual program, the actual timetable, just a little bit of information about how you can actually study the program. There are different options. You can study the program, if we're talking about the MSc, you can study it full-time, of course, and that would take you normally 1 year. You can also study it over a 2-year period, part-time, but you would have to, if you select that option, you do have to complete within 2 years. Both of those options are eligible for SAS funding, depending on other eligibility criteria, such as residency, etc. And you can find out more about that on the program web pages. That will take you, there's a link there that will take you to information about SAS funding and other sources of funding as well. You can also study the MSc over 2 to 6 years. This is what we call, it's an invoiced at course level approach, which basically means you can select which courses that you want to take each semester in a pattern that really suits you in terms of your other commitments that you might have to manage. So obviously it's potentially a longer option where you can really spread your teaching out and your courses out over a longer period of time. And you have up to 6 years in which to complete the MSc with that option. PgDip is similar, the options are the same, but of course everything's shorter because you don't do the dissertation as part of the PgDip. You would only do the talk component, the 120 credits. So that's a 9-month full-time, a 2-year part-time, rounding it up, or a 1 to 4 year part-time option. So there's a good range of options depending on what your situation is and how many other commitments that you have to manage during the time. In terms of the delivery of the program, the talk component is delivered by obviously academic staff within the Institute of Sport, PE and Health Sciences here. We are all experienced teaching staff and academic staff with a lot of relevant training academically and also in our research. So obviously we use that research to inform our teaching. But we also have a core group of external practitioners who also contribute to the program. These are current practitioners in strength and conditioning contexts who are almost all fully accredited strength and conditioning practitioners. A lot of them will also have significant academic experience, maybe teaching. Some of them are completing or have completed their PhDs as well. So when you combine the academic and the practitioner experience that is used to deliver this program, you obviously have a very strong combination there of academic as well as practical, real world, if you like, experience and advice that you can call on during your time on the program. Most talk courses are delivered by a combination of lectures, workshops, practical laboratory sessions, taking part in group debates, etc. Obviously, it's a postgraduate program, so we expect and we encourage discussion and debate in the classroom rather than just to sort of sit down and listen to the lecture type approach. And with the kind of information and material that we discuss in the program, that lends itself very well to that kind of delivery. And of course, you have the opportunity to take part in external courses or external sessions that are delivered in addition to the taught delivery of the courses. And again, I'll touch on that in a moment. Most teaching takes place on a Monday and a Tuesday, both the afternoon and the evening. There's a couple of key reasons for that. One is to make it easier for part-time students to take part in the teaching, and also it gives you a good block of time in the week to take part in any kind of internships or placements that you might want to take part in. And again, we'll talk about internships and placements in a few moments. Here's an example of a recent timetable for the program, so you can see how things are broken down. So you've got every course there, except for the option course, listed. So all the core courses are listed. And you can see that teaching is on a Monday afternoon and evening. And you can see semester 1 from September to December, followed by semester 2, January to April, and then of course the dissertation period over the summer. So you can get a feel for how things are broken down. And the teaching doesn't change that much. The only thing that will happen is that some of the courses will swap over with some other courses. So the actual times the days won't really change, the times won't really change, just some of the actual session slots will move around every year to accommodate part-time students primarily. So that hopefully gives you a bit of a feel for how the actual timetable may look when you come along and study, hopefully. So what I've introduced so far is what we call the core content. So it's the actual courses that you will sit. What you can also see here are some of the added value sessions that we run. So we run in semester 1 5 to 6 3-hour workshops with Gil Stevenson, who is the highly experienced UKSCA Accredited Strength and Conditioning coach and assessor. And he delivers workshops on a variety of topics related to Olympic lifting, development of plyometric and speed training workshops. Very similar to the UKSCA workshops that are run, but these are in-house for you as students on the program only and at no additional cost to you. So they're exceptionally beneficial and good value for money because they're free. We also have a strength and conditioning gym within the building here at the Institute, and that is available to you free of charge as students on the program. So you can use that for your own training, for your own development throughout the academic years or year. And we also facilitate some very high quality internship and work placement opportunities that you can take up if you wish, which I'll touch on again in a moment and I'll expand on a little bit. But they add significantly to the value of the program and give you a real opportunity to develop your practical skills and experience. So let's have a little touch on some of those internship and placement opportunities now. What you can see here are some of the organisations that we have in the past had placement relationships with. So Scottish Rugby, Edinburgh Rugby, the two main Scottish Premiership football clubs in the city, Heart of Midlothian and Hibernian, with the Scottish Institute of Sport, Oriam, who are the Scotland's Sports Performance Centre, have recently opened just a few miles down the road from the building here. And also Sport and Exercise, which is the organisation within the University of Edinburgh that manages all of the university sports teams from university level all the way up to our world and Olympic level athletes that we have as students here. So we have very good working relationships with these organisations who will often have placement and internship opportunities that they would like our students to take up and carry out with them. So at the start of each academic year, we will invite our placement providers into the university to talk to you about what placements are available, what they would involve, what skills and experience you would gain from taking part in them, and also what you would be expected to put into them as well. And then it's up to you to make the decision about whether any of those are of interest to you and whether you would like to apply for them and take them on. And that's something that you would then do along with the placement provider. So they are exceptionally good value placements. They're high quality. We make sure that the placements are there to really develop your skills and your experience. I know from previous students that those placements have been very highly valued. So that's something that you could look forward to as an opportunity for yourselves on the program. So the placements are optional. They're not credit bearing, and they're purposefully optional and non-credit bearing so that students don't feel that they have to take a placement on if they don't feel they have the time or they've got enough prior experience that they don't really need to do that. So there's no pressure as such about the placements. As I mentioned already, they're of a high quality. There's a potential that you could actually marry your dissertation topic to your placement, but that's something that you would discuss with your placement provider nearer the time. And there's also evidence that, some of our previous graduates that have actually secured employment post-program with their placement providers as well. So really beneficial, but it is worth mentioning that placement availability will differ every year. And of course, it's subject to the availability that the placement providers themselves have. But we will facilitate any opportunities that are available in the year that you come to study with us. Here's just an image of these are some of our students from 2017-18. The All Blacks came over for, I think it was a summer series of matches. And they were training at our performance gym just up the road where these students were doing their placement. And these students were lucky enough to observe the training sessions and even contribute to them as well. And there's a picture of some of them with the All Blacks coaches. So it gives you an example of some of the opportunities that that can present themselves during the course of the academic year. Of course, I can't guarantee the All Blacks are going to be around, but you never know. It's worth mentioning about UKSCA, United Kingdom Strength Conditioning Association accreditation, because I do get a lot of questions about this. We do not embed the accreditation process into the program, and the simple reason is it would be too much to do, doing a master's degree over a year, as well as trying to do a full accreditation over that course of that year as well. It's too much. So we don't embed it into the program as a requirement. What we do is we do support students who wish to develop themselves towards accreditation with the UKSCA. So as I've mentioned already, we hold practical workshops with Gil Stevenson. Those are very closely linked to the competencies required for UKSCA accreditation. Some of our course assessments are very closely aligned and replicate in a lot of cases some of the challenges and some of the requirements that you will need to demonstrate in certain aspects of the accreditation process, for example, the oral presentation that you have to give. And also we use accredited practitioners and UKSCA assessors to assist in some of our assessments and provide feedback to you as well. So you get the benefit of contemporary practitioners and assessors giving you that feedback and assessing your work. So it puts you in a really good position to go forwards for accreditation, but we don't insist on that during the program. And of course, it's also beneficial because not everybody who goes through the program requires UKSCA accreditation. So again, the option is there if it suits you for your career goal. Just to make you aware, very recently the program, or in September of last year, the program received the recognition of the National Strength Conditioning Association, so the governing body of S&C in North America. They run an education recognition program, and our program achieved recognition there for successfully meeting, as it says there, the established educational graduate requirements in S&C. So that's a really prestigious recognition, which raises the profile of the program. Specific to benefits to students, it gives you discounts on any NSCA exams or assessments that you would like to take. It means, of course, that you would be studying a program that has industry recognition. And again, that raises the profile of the program potentially to employers. And particularly, not exclusively, but of course, particularly for students from North America, it gives you that greater credence because that's your governing body of S&C. So for those from North America or those that wish to work in S&C in North America in particular, that's a real benefit for you. So I wanted to make you aware of that as well. So looking more generally at the kind of facilities that you'll have available to you on the program, we have very high quality science-based facilities, training-based facilities as well. All of the images that you see here are facilities based in the building in which I am sat at the moment, the Institute for Sport, PE and Health Sciences. So we have a dedicated biomechanics lab with the latest 3D motion analysis equipment for capturing a variety of different physical performances and analyzing them in great detail. We have inbuilt force platforms associated with that camera system, so you can get force profiling as well as movement characteristics. We have a well-equipped physiology lab, which enables us to look at the physical and metabolic demand of a whole host of different performances and exercises, quantify those, use that to design training interventions, assess the efficacy of those interventions, again, across a whole range of parameters and markers that you might be interested in, both from power and speed performance through to endurance performance as well. The bottom two images that you can see there are of the dedicated S&C facility or gym that is in this building, and this is the one that would be available to you to use for free. The images that you can see there are from a couple of the workshops that Gil Stevenson ran last year, so those are our current students taking part in those workshops. So again, that facility is in this building and would be free for you to access. The facilities you're seeing there are predominantly at the Pleasance, which is about a 3-minute walk from this building, except for the ones on the far left. Again, that's the S&C gym and the swimming pool, which is in this building. The rest of those facilities are just a snapshot of what's available just up the road at the Pleasance. It's a world-class training facility, commercial gym, as well as high-performance gym and facility for training our university teams, our university athletes, and visiting teams as well. So if you were, for example, to take placement at Pleasance, which is offered, a number of placement opportunities are offered every year there, you would be accessing these kind of facilities and using them to train our athletes and develop your own skills as well. So I'd encourage you to have a look at the facilities that are available, not just in this building with this program, but also at the Pleasance, just to get a real handle on the world-class facilities that are available to you when you're on the program. So I'm just going to finish by just very briefly drawing your attention to not necessarily what's specific to this program, because we've touched on a number of those things, but also putting us in the context of where we actually are in Edinburgh. So what you can see here is an image looking out at some of the buildings of the university, and behind the buildings you can see Holyrood Park, so that's a 5-minute walk from where I am at the moment. The red arrow, as best as I could estimate, is pretty much where this building is. And you can see directly behind that is Arthur's Seat. So this is the only university that I know of that sits itself directly next to an extinct volcano, because that's what Arthur's Seat actually is. So you can see where we're sat here with kind of the natural sort of beauty, if you like, of Edinburgh and the Holyrood campus. So that's where you would be largely based for your teaching anyway on the program. Of course, you can't talk about Edinburgh without having an image of Edinburgh Castle, which is what you're seeing there. And again, this is a 10 to 15-minute walk from the building here. So we're very, very central. The Institute for Sport, PE and Health Sciences, very central in Edinburgh, within really easy access of some of the classic sites and experiences of being in Edinburgh. Another shot looking across sort of the older buildings and bridges of the city. Again, this is the city centre, and this being right in the middle of the image would make you about a 10-minute walk from where we are. So pretty much everything's within a 10-minute walk that I'm showing you here in terms of central Edinburgh. The great thing about Edinburgh is that it's not such a big city that it's easy to get to things regardless of what you're interested in seeing or experiencing while you're here. If I remember correctly, this is Carlton Hill, again looking over the centre of Edinburgh with the castle in the background. Same street, we're talking about a 10-minute walk, 10-15 minutes from here. Great views, great things to see. Just an example of one of the older streets again in Edinburgh, with the shops and the restaurants and other things that you can experience while you're here. So this is just the bottom of what we call the Grass Market. So again, very, very close by to where we are and where you'd likely be spending most of your time as a student on the program. So we're really central, and you know, as much as the program is important and what you're doing on the program is important, it's really important to think about where you be and what else is going to be available to you that you can take advantage of and experience while you're doing your studies The left image there is a performer during the Edinburgh Festival in August every year. That's on the Royal Mile, the main street of Edinburgh Town Centre, 10 minutes away from here. The right-hand image is the Edinburgh Military Tattoo, a world-famous event celebrating things related to the military, based at Edinburgh Castle. And again, that's an annual event, which is well worth seeing. So a very quick snapshot of some of the key features of the programme, as well as a little bit of context as to Edinburgh itself. Hopefully that's been useful for you. I won't say any more about anything like that. I'd like to open up the rest of the session to your questions, because I think that's really important, that you get the chance to make sure you ask everything that you want to ask. So I'll start talking. Feel free now to post any questions that you'd like me to address. I will read out the question, so everyone that's in the room, and I think there's about 5 of you now, everyone who's in the room will hear your question and also my answer as well. So again, I just remind you, if it's a bit more of a personal question, just consider that before answering it or asking it. But otherwise, feel free to post your questions and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay. So I think someone's just raised their hand. Don't worry too much about using the raise the hand icon. If you'd like to just type your question in the box, because there's not that many of you, so I think we'll be fine to manage the questions as they come up. Okay, so I've got a question here from Louise. We will have free access only to the S&C facilities or also the sport and exercise? Okay, I'll take that question first. You have free access to the S&C gym in the Institute building here. If you would like to use the sport and exercise facilities for your own use, for recreational use, you will take out a student membership there. It's an extremely good value for money membership. And you can find more information about that on the sport and exercise website. It's a very, very, very cost-effective membership for the amount of facilities that you get access to. If you were doing a placement at the Pleasance, there may not be the need for a membership. Depends on whether you're planning on using the facility yourself. Second part of the question, there is the possibility to take an internship or placement / student opportunity before starting the course. There's nothing stopping you taking an internship or a placement before you start the course if you're able to organise that yourself, or you have contacts that might help you to develop that placement. What we tend to do is within the first week or 2 of the program starting, we invite our placement providers to come in and speak to all of you as a group about what opportunities they have available during the academic year. So we will become involved at that point in facilitating that session. But there's nothing stopping you from developing a placement or developing a relationship with a placement provider before the program starts. But it would not be something that we would facilitate until the program had begun. I hope that answers the question. Okay, another question. This is from Ioannis, sorry if I haven't pronounced that correctly. Do you believe that a master's degree in exercise physiology or sports science will provide a wider range of employment opportunities than your program? It's a tricky question. MSc Strength Conditioning is the named program, is the program title here. So the focus is the application of physiological knowledge, the application of nutritional knowledge, and the application of research knowledge to strength conditioning. So there's a specific focus there. However, as I mentioned at the beginning of the talk, the application of strength conditioning knowledge is becoming much, much broader. So you have people working in strength conditioning contexts now, or with strength conditioning backgrounds, in clinical settings, in prehabilitation, rehabilitation, working with pediatric populations, elderly populations, in things like fall prevention and areas such as that. Working with large organizations and businesses, looking at improving the health of their workforce. So it's not just about sports performance anymore. There's an increasing breadth of applications and potential areas that you can move into. So you're not necessarily being sort of pigeonholed into just working in sports performance, for example, if you do an MSc in strength conditioning. doing an MSc in sports science or exercise physiology, you may potentially study a slightly broader range of topics, or look at the applications in a slightly broader sense. The potential issue with that is that sometimes it's a little bit trickier then to know what to do with that qualification afterwards, and where to go, and what you're actually qualified, or what career areas you're qualified to move into. So sometimes studying something that's slightly more broad doesn't necessarily translate to an easier career path, because it's about weighing up specificity of knowledge versus depth of knowledge, and getting the marriage between those two correct. So it will depend in part on what I've just said, and it will depend in part on what your future career goals may be. And it's sometimes hard to give more specific advice without knowing that. But yeah, I hope that has answered the question. I'm not trying to get out of the question there. It's just that's my most honest opinion, I think, of that question based on the information I've got. So hopefully that helps. Yeah, that's a good point as well that Aiko's made there. You know, the work placements that we do have alongside the talk component of the program here are a really great opportunity for you to, like I said, you can test the water. So we've had some students that have come along and thought that sports performance was their career goal, and that's what they wanted to do. But actually, in having some experience of working in that environment, she decided it wasn't necessarily right for them, and they were able to then move into a different direction and focus on a different direction. So it's a good opportunity to open your horizons, if you like, and see if something is really for you or not, and give you the opportunity to change things in good time. So again, that's one of the benefits that we can offer, is having that strong placement opportunity that runs alongside the program, because there's nothing like getting real experience of what it's actually going to be like in a career to let you know whether it's the right thing for you or not. So regardless of what option you take, I'd always encourage you to try and get some of that real world experience, because it really gives you that insight that you need. Any other questions? Keep them coming. We've got time yet. I'll just take a break and rest my voice. I think there is a question coming in, so we'll just wait for that. And if you've got any, you're not limited to how many questions you can ask. If you've got follow-up questions, please fire them through, and we'll address them. Okay, so here's another question, and it relates to the internship opportunities. This is from Brandon. With the Scottish Rugby internship opportunities, would it mostly be working with age grade teams? It depends. Again, this is something that is completely at the discretion of the provider. So in this case, it would be at the discretion of either Scottish Rugby or Edinburgh Rugby. The specific nature of any placements will differ year on year, depending on, again, what the placement providers need, where their focus is, and what they have available. So we can't guarantee any placements will be available in any particular area. But historically, when our students have worked with Scottish Rugby setups, it's been across the breadth of squads. So it's been with age grade teams, it's been with the senior squad, male and female. So again, it depends on what Scottish Rugby need support with at any given time. So yeah, we've certainly had students that have worked as part of their placement alongside the senior squads. But a lot of placements have also been about accessing some of the age grade data that's been collected by Scottish Rugby, and actually looking at making sense of that and feeding that back to the organisation so that they can understand what the data is telling them and how that influences how they work with their squads. So either access to any of those squads is an extremely beneficial thing, as I'm sure you appreciate. But yeah, it depends on what Scottish Rugby actually need at any given time. And that would be made clear to you at the start of the academic year. I hope that answers the question. No worries. Any other questions? So it could be absolutely anything. Don't worry. Don't worry if you think it's a silly question. There's no silly questions at this point. Okay. So here's another question about the application. How long does it usually take to reach a decision on an application? This is a tricky question to answer. Obviously, the applications, when they come in, need to go through a screening process, and that's done by the admissions department. And that's the evaluation of making sure that. So we've got a postgrad admissions member of staff on with us actually, so she might be able to give you a bit more of an insight. So I'll let Morag respond to that question, and that will probably answer it because I'm just an academic. So she'll probably be able to answer that question. The awkward silence of waiting. Thank you very much, Iko. Appreciate it. So I think we have got some questions coming through. They're just taking a little bit of time to come up on my screen. Like I say, please feel free to fire any across. Just make sure that you leave the session today having had any information that you wanted given to you and any questions answered. Okay, so Iko's actually asked a question, and that relates to the option courses that you're able to take on the program. So the question is, what sort of option courses do students usually sit for those last 20 credits? It really depends on what their interests are. Obviously, the courses have to be related to the program. For example, this year, which is actually the first year that we have implemented these option courses, a lot of our students have selected nutrition because they see the relevance of that to their practice. A lot of students have selected sports medicine courses because they're interested in that aspect of things, perhaps from a prehabilitation or rehabilitation perspective, and how strength and conditioning can support that. And that goes back to what I mentioned earlier about the increasing breadth of applications of strength and conditioning principles. We've also had students that have selected psychology-related courses and looking at how psychological concepts can again be linked into a strength and conditioning practitioner's arsenal, if you like. So I think those are the three most popular topics and areas that have been selected this year. And when you come to select your option course, obviously you would have a chat with me about that, and I can help to sort of guide you on what your option or the most useful option for you might be. So we would have that conversation. Yeah, it's a relatively free choice based on your interests and your experience, but that's a flavour of what our students have done this year. So there's some information about turnaround times for applications, if that applies to anyone else as well. That's useful information for anybody else. That's great information. Any other questions that anyone might have? Okay, here's another one. Okay, the question is here then. I see that most clubs and organisations require in their job opportunities an MSc qualification. My question is that if my goal is to work specifically as an S&C coach and to work towards being a UKSCA accredited member, I can be certain that I made the right decision. However, my desire is to work with football. There are partners of the university like Hibernian. Okay, I think I think I'm getting the gist of this question. You're right, a lot of clubs and a lot of organisations do require MSc level study in job applications, alongside, of course, UKSCA accreditation, or at least working towards UKSCA accreditation, because they do give you different things. Yes, there's overlap between an MSc and that's okay, don't worry, Louise. There is an overlap between an MSc and UKSCA accreditation, of course there is, but they also give you distinct experiences and knowledge as well. So I don't think it's necessarily a case of putting one above the other, either an MSc or UKSCA accreditation. You have to look at them as almost separate in a way before you bring them together. In terms of partnerships with football, yes, we have in the past had internships and placements working with Heart of Midlothian and Hibernian Football Club, which are the two Premiership football clubs in Scotland, in Edinburgh. So there may well be an opportunity for you to get involved with those organisations in the coming year. Again, I have to say that I cannot guarantee the availability of any specific placements. It really does depend on what the placement providers have available at the time. There may well also be other opportunities to work within football, not just necessarily within those two clubs. So it's certainly something that has been offered in the past. Yes, absolutely. Hopefully that answers the question. Oh, another question here, Brandon again. I think you mentioned earlier that part-time MSc S&C applicants have to attend an interview to get onto the programme. 1, is that correct? 2, are part-time students expected to attend afternoon lectures if they may be juggling full-time work? Okay, this is a really good question. Let's take it in 2 parts. Do part-time MSc S&C applicants have to attend an interview? No, they don't. No. So I don't think I said that. If I did, or it was confusing, and I apologise. But no, they don't have to attend an interview. Part-time applicants are subject to the same application process as full-time applicants. It's the same entry requirements. So there's no specific interview process for part-time students. If you're accepted onto the programme as a part-time student, then prior to starting, you will come and have a meeting with me so that we can organise and plan your timetable and how it's going to look, and make sure that it suits both your progression through the programme and your external commitments that you have to balance. So that would be a meeting that we'd have, but it's not an interview to get on the programme. You don't have to do that. Part 2, part-time students are not expected to attend afternoon lectures. Every year, most of our courses flip over. So if they're in the afternoon in one year, the next year they're in the evening. So they rotate every year. And that's primarily to support part-time students who maybe can't make it in the afternoon. So if you can only make it in the evening, one year you'll do the evening courses, and then the next year the timetable will flip, and the courses that were in the afternoon will then be in the evening, and you can carry on studying in the evening and do the new courses that you haven't done yet. So pretty much exclusively you won't be expected, or you should be able to balance what you need to do in your course with your other commitments. So so hopefully again that answers that part of your question. So it's quite awkward. It's quite funny answering a question when you can't speak to the person. So hopefully I'm answering them okay. Please let me know if I don't know. If I don't quite get to the crux of your question, just let me know. Okay, I'd be happy to give it another stab. Good. Okay, we've still got a bit of time, so again, feel free to keep them coming. I am also thinking about maybe anything else that I can mention that wasn't covered in my presentation. So if anything comes to mind, I'll drop that in as well. Okay, here's the question. Louise, is there advice if it would be better to take a part-time or full-time course? How I would like to take a job whilst taking the MSc, would make more sense taking the part-time. Is that correct? Okay, so that's a good question again, and it's a it's an important question to consider, because we appreciate that there may well be the requirement for you to do some work alongside your studies in order to support yourself financially. Obviously, if you're doing the program full time, there is an expectation that you engage as a full-time student. So you obviously attend the necessary classes and you do the necessary work outside of those classes. However, anecdotally, that a number of students, past students, have studied the program full time, but have also done some work, some paid work in that time as well, in order to support themselves. So it is feasible. It just really depends, I suppose, how much work you feel that you need to do, paid work. And if, of course, the amount of paid work that you have to do is a bit more substantial, it might make sense to drop to a part-time option. But it really depends on how much commitment, how much external commitment you think you need to make to employed work. It's not necessarily that you'd have to go down the part-time route. And I'd be happy to, have a more of a specific conversation with you via email or perhaps over Skype about that, if that's something that might be useful, because it's hard to give more specific advice without knowing exactly perhaps what commitment you would have to make to work, and also what experience and knowledge you're coming into the program with. And if I got a handle on both of those things, I could probably give a bit more specific advice. So we could perhaps have a conversation separately on a different day about that. Okay, it's a good question for Michael, actually. Can international students study part-time? No, essentially is the answer there. So international students will study the program full-time. Okay, there is a restriction on who can study the program part-time, and that stems from a number of different reasons: funding, visa issues, residency issues, that kind of thing. So no, there is not. It's not necessarily the case that everybody can study it part-time. But again, if you have a look on the program pages, that will clarify any kind of requirements along those lines for you. Yes, Louise, that would be no problem. We could have a conversation and arrange a time for that. So perhaps, hopefully, we've got your email. I believe we've got your email details anyway. Iko can correct me. So I'll contact you directly and we can arrange something. That's not a problem. That's great. That's a link there for Iko as well about the link to the program web pages, where you can get more information about requirements for studying full-time, part-time, general entry requirements, etc. And there's also my email address as well. So Louise, if you want to take a note of that email address, then you can just drop me an email and we can arrange a time that suits us to have a conversation. And for everyone else in the room as well, feel free to make a note of that email address and get in touch as and when you need to. If you'd like to discuss anything else, or if you'd like to arrange a Skype conversation, I'd be happy to have another one-on-one discussion with you. That would be absolutely fine. Okay, I'm being told several people are typing, so I'll give a moment for some of that to come through, and got another 10 minutes or so we can address a few more questions. That's a really good question about Brexit. Absolutely, it's important to consider. The university is producing and has produced some guidelines and guidance around different aspects of university provision related to Brexit. I must admit, as an academic, with regards to some of it, it's not really my area of expertise. So, if Morag or Iko are able to provide any insight there, that would be really beneficial and useful, I think. Yeah, that's good information as well. Just confirming that if you are what we call a Tier 4 student, so a student that requires an international visa or a Tier 4 visa, so an international applicant, that you aren't eligible, unfortunately, for part-time study. Okay, Brandon, yeah, feel free, ask your question. That's not a problem. Great, thanks for that, Aiko. So that's a dedicated information site that the university's produced related to Brexit-related issues. So it'd be really good to have a look at that and maybe keep up to date with the information on there, because obviously it is still changing, unfortunately, as we get nearer the time. Okay, a question here about UKSCA accreditation. Would there be a discount for the accreditation as an Edinburgh University MSc student, as there is a discount for the CSCS NSCA exam, as we mentioned earlier? Unfortunately, at the moment, there is no formalised discount for MSc students who want to take accreditation. The reason for that is that the UKSCA at the moment does not have formalised relationships with university programs, university strength and conditioning programs. I believe they are looking at developing something like that, but it's not been rolled out yet. So they don't endorse university programs. They don't recognise them under their organisation. So there's no formal kind of working relationship between the UKSCA and higher education institutions. So there's no discount as a kind of as a perk, perk for that. Conversely, the NSCA do have a recognition program, as I've already mentioned, because this program has been recognised. So because they have that relationship with higher education institutions, they are able to offer discounts to students from those institutions. So it's just where the UKSCA and the NSCA differ a little bit at the moment. So unfortunately, no. But you know, that may be changing. That may be changing. But at the moment, it's not the case. Okay, so another question about UKSCA accreditation, I think. I'm not 100% sure what the specific meaning behind this question, but I think it relates to how the UKSCA and the university work together. So as I mentioned, we don't insist on students taking the UKSCA accreditation while they go through the program, the MSc program, but we do prepare you well for it if you would like to do it alongside your studies or after your studies. We work to UKSCA principles when relevant with regards to internships and placements, for example. We, as I mentioned, we work with UKSCA accredited assessors and practitioners who will at times contribute to your assessment on the program. We also hold UKSCA assessment days here at the university, as well as workshops as well. So we have that strong working relationship with the UKSCA. So you have the opportunity to get involved with that. And we support you and prepare you well for accreditation, but we don't embed it formally within the program. But the relationships, the working relationships, and the principles are well embedded in the program. So I hope that answers the question. Great, I'm doing well, it seems. Good. Yeah, we've got 5 more minutes, so if there are any last questions.